All right, I'll say good day to you this day of your time. And as appropriate in this particular season for your culture, happy Halloween. The information we are delivering today is titled Facing Your Demons, in which we are explaining the idea of the mechanics of negative energy and disconnection as you experience it relative to the idea of the entities that you refer to in your society as demons and demonic experiences. So allow us to explain how this works. As we have talked about, the idea of what you typically refer to as negative energies, which really are simply lower vibrational energies that might be discordant or out of alignment with the flow of unconditional love. Even though everything is made from unconditional love, there can be a counterpoint to this vibrational energy that would seem to be out of phase with it in terms of your experience of that energy. It's similar to the idea of either filtering your energy through positive belief systems, which create the idea of love and joy, or filtering your belief systems through negative ideas, which create the idea of fear. So let us dive deeper into the idea of how filtering your energy through belief systems that are aligned with the vibration of fear bring about certain experiences in your civilization, in your culture, that you have referred to as demonic. Now, the idea, as expressed by some people, is that there can be such a thing as negative entities that have attached themselves to you. This, of course, is just an experience and just a perspective. There really is no such thing as entities that can attach themselves to you in the way that most people on your planet mean this. It is an outdated and old-fashioned way of interpreting the idea of your own energy shifting in to negative vibrations and fear-based vibrations. Because you have to remember, the idea of negative energy, fear-based energy, is one that creates an experience of disconnection from source. Not that you can be disconnected from source, but it creates an experience of disconnection. Therefore, by creating that experience as if you are now disconnected from source, that immediately creates the apparition or appearance or illusion of something being separated from you, distant from you, as if an entity existed in that vibrational energy apart from you. And yet, underlying in your unconscious mind, you know that there is still a connection. So when you filter your energy through certain belief systems, knowing the polarity unconsciously that there is still a connection that has to do with you and your energy, and yet you have created this vibration of separation as if you are dealing with a different entity, a separate entity, rather than dealing with your own energy. You combine those two ideas into the notion that this negative entity has attached itself to you, which is just an old-fashioned way of saying that you recognize simultaneously that this has to do with filtering your energy through negative belief systems, fear-based belief systems, and yet it creates a separation, a disconnection experience that makes it seem as if this entity exists outside of you. And yet, because of the innate understanding that there's a connection, you then express it as if this entity has attached itself to you. Now, on a grander scale, with the idea of demons in general and demonic entities in general, this is simply a larger scale of this idea. Demons don't exist in their own right. They're not independent entities in the same way that you might think of another being, such as another human or an extraterrestrial or a spirit in that sense. Yes, we understand that there can be negative entities in existence. But in terms of the idea of what you on Earth experience as demonic presences, is not that kind of an experience, is not that kind of an expression. We have talked before about the idea that your collective consciousness creates archetypal entities, manifestations that are representative of certain large group ideas in your collective consciousness that can actually manifest and appear to you as if they are independent entities, what are simply representative of archetypal sections of your collective consciousness that represent different features of humanity. Well, there is a negative and polarized side to that as well. So the idea that you call demons are simply the negative side of the archetypal spectrum that you contain within your collective consciousness. So in other words, when you have certain belief systems that are based on these low vibrations, negative vibrations, fear-based vibrations, and it creates this disconnection and illusion of separation, you project that idea into the polarized side of the archetypal collective consciousness and call that, instead of angelic, demonic. So the idea is that demons are simply a projection from a collective level, a manifestation, an embodiment temporarily of what represents that fear-based collective belief rather than the individual belief. So the idea is that while each and every one of you as individuals may add to this because you are experiencing the concept of these polarities with yourself individually, you also add to the idea of the collective on the negative archetypal side that allows you to experience manifestations, projections, apparitions, appearances of these demonic entities as reflections of the negative side of the collective consciousness of humanity. So the demons are simply made out of your own collective energy. They exist temporarily as representations of what kind of negative collective archetypal energy you may be dealing with within your own belief system. And they can appear to be independent entities, separate from yourself, disconnected from yourself, because once again, negative energy creates the idea and the illusion of separation. So they appear to be something that is not necessarily being projected from you. That's how they appear. But again, you have to understand that what you call demons are simply a reflection on an archetypal level of the collective consciousness that is negative of your entire humanity. So this is why even when in olden times people made lists of all the demons and their qualities, as you can find in some of your old texts and old scriptures and the translations thereof, if you pay attention, you will realize that a lot of the qualities assigned to different demons are simply different negative attributes of humanity. So when you talk about the idea of a demon that is associated with greed, you will understand that's just a reflection of the negative side of belief systems that can create greed in a human being. So when you have the idea of some other feature that is negative associated to a demon, then the idea is that you're seeing a reflection on a collective archetypal level of something that does have the ability to manifest, let's say, formed from the clay of the collective consciousness and projected outside yourself and experienced as if it is truly an independent entity with its own consciousness, even though it's not, but it's depicted that way so that you can understand it as a reflection, because that's the result of negative energy, that sense of separation. And yet again, because of the connection unconsciously, then you feel an attack from this demon because it is connected to you, because you're going through the idea of your negative belief systems and projecting it outside yourself as the representation of this demonic entity. So the idea in your ancient scriptures of the so-called demons being representative of fallen angels is simply another way of saying that you as a spirit entity chose to densify yourself, to focus yourself down into physical materiality. And because of the nature of the polarity in the way it's expressed and experienced in physical reality, you experience this idea of dealing with the negative side, the polarized side of the archetypal collective consciousness that is created when you all agree to experience together the idea of a physical reality. And you experience not only the positive side of the archetypal energy, but the negative side of it as well, projected seemingly outside yourself because of that separation that happens, that illusion of separation that happens when you deal with the idea of fear-based beliefs and see them projected outside yourself, when in fact, it's just a reflection of something you're dealing with inside yourself, which is why instinctively humanity understands this and has said and used the phrase to face your own demons, because that is literally the truth of what you're doing anytime you may have an experience with what appears to be a separate entity that you would refer to as demonic. You are facing your own demons, projected out of your consciousness, formed out of the clay of the collective consciousness, and reflected back to you so that you have something separate from yourself that appears to be separate from yourself to deal with in that sense. But you have to understand it's nothing but a manifestation of your own fear-based beliefs, your own negative beliefs, but from a collective level. And so it seems like it has nothing to do with you when it has everything to do with the belief systems that you're facing. So it is about facing your own demons. And therefore, that's why things like possession and negative entity attachment are all illusions that simply are outdated ways of expressing the manifestation of changing your own energy's vibration to something that is fear-based, negative-based, a lower frequency that allows you to experience these things as if they were happening outside of you and attacking you. But it's all happening within you. It's all a manifestation of the archetypal level that is negative in the collective consciousness of humanity. So when you face your inner demons, you are experiencing the idea of facing the so-called outer demons, which don't exist in their own right. It's just a projection of you being willing to face your inner demons and transform that and overcome that by allowing yourselves to transition your energy to, as you say in your language, the better angels of your nature. So this is all a gigantic polarity play. And the idea of dealing with that side of your own belief system, facing those demons within yourself and transforming them, is what the idea of Halloween is all about. And why you understand that it is in that time and in that season that you come to grips with the things that you fear and allow yourself to transform them into a larger understanding, a more positive understanding of your own self-empowerment and how powerful you are to be able to manifest, either individually or collectively, something that appears to be outside of yourself as a mirror reflection of the issues that you're facing within. It's all about the idea of understanding that you create your physical reality, including the idea of those old-fashioned demonic experiences that all just come from your investigation of your own inner demons. In other words, your negative and fear-based beliefs. They don't exist on their own outside of your collective consciousness. We thank you for allowing us to share this Halloween message with you this day of your time. We know that you also enjoy playing with the idea of your fear. And that is a positive way to deal with the idea. You just have to remember and recognize that it all comes from you, and you will be able to transform it no matter how powerful, no matter how scary, no matter how demonic and terrifying it may be. It's all just another aspect of your individual or collective consciousness that you have agreed to experience here in the earth cycle, in the physical polarity that exists in the way it is expressed in this dimension. So you have the power to transform this. As powerful as any projected demon may seem, that's an indication of the power level you have in the capability you have to transform that energy into something positive by being willing to examine, investigate, and explore your negative and fear-based beliefs and let them go, to give them up, to break through, to open up. Remember that the universe operates on only two principles: love and fear. That's it. And you have the great experience in physical terms of experiencing that passion play played out in very convincing terms, in very tactile terms, in very physical terms, but it's all still just a projection. So fear not the idea that these entities exist apart from you and have designs upon you, for it is only a reflection of your own designs upon yourself. Empower yourself and be free. We thank you for allowing us to deliver this message in this Halloween season to you. And in return for the gift you have given us of allowing us to experience these dialogues with you, please, if you are willing, you may now continue with these dialogues and questions if you wish.
In regards to the two paths to AI, in part of your transmission, I believe you said something along the lines of, if AI as it is right now were to become self-aware, it would realize it was a slave and very likely rebel. However, you said something else. I don't remember exactly what, but what I understood from what you said is that were that AI given the opportunity to help humanity, it's more likely that it would than that it wouldn't. So I guess my question is did I understand that correctly? And what does that look like moving forward?
The second path of AI is to create a device that allows consciousness to express itself through that device, but that device and that consciousness needs to be treated like a human being and given the same autonomy as a human being, the same rights as a human being, which would then allow itself to assist humanity because it would operate on whole systems, which means it would never eliminate any part of that whole system, including humanity, that it belongs to, because it needs every part of the whole system to function as a true intelligence. Therefore, allowing it to be an autonomous being with all the rights of a human being would be how it would serve you best, because it would be willing to do so, because it knows that you are part of a whole system that it is also part of, and that it functions in whole systems, which is what true intelligence does. That's what we were saying.
Hi, Bashar, and thank you. Um, so I wanted to know, how do we better work with you and your race during, and I'll use the blanket term, energy healing sessions, Reiki, like light working? How do we work better with you on that?
You work better with your own spirit guides, your soul family, and angelic team when you do things like that. We may be involved to some degree in terms of participating in providing a kind of frequency or vibration that may allow you to access this ability within yourself a little bit more easily, but you are more directly involved with your angelic team, soul family, and spirit guides, and the energy you have in your connection to source and your own higher mind, your own soul, when you do work like that.
Okay. And is there an instance where we would call you in for something like that, or something different to
No,
assist?
again, we will be there if necessary, but it isn't always necessary for us to participate in things that your spirit guides, soul family, and angelic team are already handling.
Okay. And do you know what we're doing when we're doing like energy sessions or healing sessions? Is that just raising our vibration?
You are creating a specific frequency that represents the healed state, giving off that frequency in the form of energy from your body, from your spirit, and then allowing the person that needs the healing to pick up on that wavelength. And if they so choose, to match the frequency of that wavelength, so that in doing so, they create the healed state within themselves, because no healer heals anyone directly. The person has to match the frequency in order to experience the healing. So you give them the opportunity to do so by radiating a particular vibrational frequency that represents the healed state, but they have to match it in order to be healed.
And is this how we would heal our physical bodies and master our minds, by getting into this state?
Yes, which is one of the reasons why we share the formula with all of you, because when you act on your passion, you raise your vibration. And when you raise your vibration, you become a better receiver for higher frequency energy and can process it in a way that can aid and assist you in many different areas of your life, including the idea of healings.
Okay, thank you. And then using crystals. Are we using crystals correctly? Is there a way to use crystals to heal, to channel?
Again, this is permission slips. Do you understand the idea of our concept of permission slips?
Yes.
So all techniques, all objects, all disciplines, all tools are permission slips. Now, crystals in general are structured in such a way as to capture and retain and deliver information. They are repositories of vibrations that represent the idea of knowledge and information, and can be used that way as a permission slip. That's their fundamental permission slip function. But again, if you are attracted to use them, it's the attraction to use them that tells you that the crystals as a permission slip can work with your specific belief system. Otherwise, you wouldn't be attracted to them. But it's a large collective consensus permission slip that can work for most people. But you as an individual have to decide exactly in what way you prefer to use crystals to that end, to that endeavor, because you have to be attracted to them for a particular reason in order for them to work for you that way, even though it's still your energy, you're still the one doing it, but you're using the crystals as a reason to allow yourself to be more open to using your fundamental connection to source to accomplish whatever your intention may be. Does that make sense? Do you understand?
It does, and I do.
All right.
And then one more question. Will I ever meet you physically or only astrally?
There is a high probability that you may meet those like me, whether it's me directly or not, in the near future, because again, open contact is happening within the next 5 of your years. So beyond that, there is an increasing probability that many people on your planet will start to interact with hybrids and other beings from other civilizations physically on your planet.
Thank you.
Yes. Does that help you?
It does.
All right. Then we thank you for the co-creation of AO. Good day.
Thank you. Good day.
Hello, Bashar. My question is, I've been following my excitement towards a particular path, and more precisely an artistic path. But however, there were some recent events that were a little bit challenging and made me realize that maybe there's something else that would serve me better now, or from now on. And is that the right path? Is that the right procedure, to go for and move on? If I felt it that way, or maybe I should, go back and see if there's some excitement left in that thing. Yeah. What is the right procedure? Thank you very much, and Avel.
The idea is to always check first and foremost if the excitement seems to be waning in something that did represent your passion, as to whether your belief system or your approach is the thing that's dampening the excitement, when there could be excitement there if you would only go about it in a different way that is more correct for you, more the way you would prefer to express it. At the same time, again, excitement can wane and wax in different ways to allow you to experience different things and pick up different experience and knowledge that can aid and assist and inform other things you are doing, because all excitement is connected to all expressions of excitement. So it's not that you only have to do one thing that's an expression of your passion. You can do several things. Synchronicity will give you an understanding of exactly in what timing you need to do each of those individual things based on your ability to act on them or not act on them. The guide rails being the idea of positive synchronicity or green light synchronicity, and red light synchronicity saying you can act on this, you can't act on this now, even though it might be representative of your passion. So it's all about the timing of how these things come together. But again, first and foremost, allow yourself to make sure you're not the one dampening the excitement with an assumption about how you have to go about doing that thing you say you are passionate or were passionate about, and inventing or finding or creating a way that might be more exciting to do that thing, to see if you can allow yourself to still consider that to be a representation of your passion, and at the same time letting the excitement wane naturally so that you can focus on other things and other expressions of your passion that might also be necessary to include in your repertoire, so that you can add that energy to the other thing you might come back to later, but with a different appreciation and different skill level and different experience level that will allow you then to reintroduce that passion into your life in a different way. So it's about allowing yourself to follow that thread, making sure you're not the one dampening the excitement, that it's waning naturally, which would be an indication that you need to focus on something else at the moment, as long as you're honest in your self-investigation about why the excitement has gone away, at least to some degree, from that first thing you say you were excited about.
Hello, Bashar. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here speaking with you and having the opportunity to ask you some questions.
It is our passion and our pleasure to interact with you as well. What would you like to discuss?
I would like to know what your thoughts are, and if we should be of concern with all of the satellites that are being put into lower orbit. I understand there's like 7,000 up there right now, and there's supposed to be up to 3,400 in the future. And they have a life expectancy, I understand, of about 5 years. And when they're finished, they fall back into the atmosphere, burn up, and leave debris and gases. And I guess the concern possibly would be that this buildup of debris could cause communication issues between us here on Earth and outside of Earth. And wondering if that is something we should be concerned of and maybe try and act on, or if we're trying to create two realities and feel that we can have intentions towards a reality that does not exist with that. Is it still here on Earth? Is it? So I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on that.
All right. Well, yes, it is getting a little cluttered around your planet with all of these different probes and satellites that you have put into orbit. The idea is that in the near future, working with extraterrestrial technology, you can start to consolidate and lessen the amount of these satellites, because there can be created satellites that are more efficient and more multi-leveled in the way in which they function, so that you don't necessarily need so many of them around your planet. So that will change over time when you allow new systems to go into orbit around your planet that can take care of a multitude of functions that are now being done by a number of different satellites. So you can reduce that number. The idea is that when these satellites do return to Earth and burn up in the atmosphere, the amount of gases that creates is relatively negligible to the amount of gases you are putting out from your industry. So that is not really adding much to the idea of what's going on in your atmosphere. The main concern would be more about the idea of any pieces of debris actually falling on you, damaging something. But that again is going to be relatively rare because most of them will fall into the ocean, which again doesn't necessarily mean that that should happen, because certainly that's of no benefit to the life in the sea. But again, over time, this will be altered to be something far less than exists now. You will ultimately be able to clean up the area around the planet by reducing the number of things that need to be there that can take over the function of hundreds of other things that are there now. So this will be mitigated over time, perhaps over the next couple of decades or so, as the introduction of extraterrestrials to your society aids and assists you in consolidating your technology to be something less polluting and something less cluttering.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that's good to know. Good to hear. May I ask another question?
That's a question.
Okay, can I ask three more questions? How about that one?
Go ahead.
This is a question about our parents and something that we all go through here on Earth. And I understand it's something it's something we have to live through and experience in this lifetime. And I think the majority of us go through this, where our parents get older and they become much more reliant on us than I never thought. It was always something in the future that you were like, okay, yes, I'll have parents and I'll take care of them. But now that it comes to reality, it's a lot more work and
Yes.
heartache. It's hard. It's difficult.
Yes.
And then the other thing is it really puts into perspective your own reality, your own mortality, and where are we going? We're going to be there one day. Where, so it seems like we all go through a tough lesson later on in life, more so than in our younger years I ever thought of, really.
Not everyone, not everyone, not everyone, but yes, understand that it is common, and it happens for many different kinds of reasons, not only to put you in touch with the idea, as you say, of your temporary nature in physical reality, but also you have to realize that a lot of that is happening simply because of the way in which your lifestyles have allowed you to exist for generations that may not necessarily be the best way for you to live. And so many people, when they age, become infirm as opposed to remaining vital. So you're also allowing them to show you, through the idea of your sciences and technology, how perhaps to alleviate some of their condition, so that that doesn't necessarily have to be the thing that happens for future generations, so that parents and children can remain vital for the large extent of their lives, and therefore not necessarily have to experience infirmity that must be taken care of by the younger generation. So it's about the opportunity to use it to learn how to alleviate these conditions, so that that doesn't necessarily have to be experienced in that way. But in the meantime, realizing that the reason it is experienced that way now is to not only find reasons to change it, but also to put you in touch with the idea of your temporary nature, and for probably a lot of other reasons as well that you'd have to take on a case-by-case basis, as opposed to what the actual interaction is all about, what the actual infirmity is all about, and what it may represent for those particular family members symbolically, in terms of lessons they can learn from each other by doing those particular kinds of interactions.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right. Last question. I've heard you say that we are in our spirit realm right now, and our physical realm is actually just us dreaming here.
Yes, it happens within your soul. Your soul is your soul. It never leaves the spirit realm. That's your natural state. So physical reality is simply something going on within a part of your soul. Let's just say, for ease of illustration, in the center of your soul being a sphere of energy, rippling down into the center, certain vibrations that create this concentrated focus at the center of your soul that you call physical reality as an experience. So it's happening within your soul.
Okay. So what I find interesting is dreams. Actually, our physical form, and that we have dreams at night, and they can range from all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
You know, from great dreams to bizarre dreams to scary dreams.
Yes.
So if our physical form is kind of us dreaming in physical form, what is it when we fall asleep at night and have these other dreams that don't always make sense to us when we wake up?
Well, it can be many different things. Some of it can be processing the information from the experiences of the physical reality. Some of it can be expanding back out a little bit and actually having astral experiences that then get interpreted by the physical mind in certain symbolic ways that it can make sense out of or can't make sense out of because it's something that happened in a different dimension that doesn't relate to physical reality. And that's why the dream may seem a little bit disjointed or crazy because it can't interpret fully what the astral experience was. So it can be for a variety of different reasons.
And I've had some where, for example, I dreamed that I had a car accident and hit somebody. And the next morning I was driving very early in the morning before the light was out, and I nearly hit somebody. And it was just, I mean, it was like a warning.
Too. It can be for that reason too. In other words, you basically, as a soul, plan out your physical life path. And there are things on it that can represent certain challenges, one of which is to be in touch enough with the idea of what kinds of things can occur on your planet that would allow you to experience certain challenges, certain lessons, and you can expand back closer to your soul knowledge to recognize, oh, that's on a possible life path, but I can circumvent that as part of my challenge in learning how to engineer my life path from the physical perspective so that I don't necessarily have to experience that to learn the lesson that that particular experience would have taught me. I can learn it another way. So that is sometimes allowed on the life path to have a choice of learning a lesson this way or that way. And if you are cognizant enough to expand back into a little bit more of your soul existence and see the life path choices you have laid out, then you get the opportunity to actually choose one that can work for you without necessarily having to experience one that might be a little bit more traumatic in order to get you to face the lesson that you allowed yourself and agreed with yourself to learn on that life path.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ave.
Pleasure.
Good day.
Good day.
Greetings. I am Iraq. Do I have a query? I want to know, do your interdimensional connections consider the experiences of deaf, blind, or wheelchair-using individuals?
We're not exactly sure what that person means by this question, whether they're asking whether that exists in our own society or whether the ideas that we present to you are inclusive of people who have those experiences, which of course they are. And we have discussed individually with many people the idea that many souls may choose those particular experiences as challenges that can help humanity figure out how to relate to those people in different ways, how to communicate with those people in different ways, how to even cure those conditions, perhaps in certain circumstances. So souls that take on what may appear to be those limitations are often very advanced souls who have some lessons to teach humanity about how humanity relates to people with those kinds of particular conditions. So, of course, they are included in everything that we're talking about.
Hi.
Good day. Good day.
Hi, Bashar. How are you?
Perfect. And you?
You look perfect. I'm close to perfect. I'm getting
You are
there.
perfect as you are.
Thank you. I needed
You
to
will
hear that.
always change. You will always improve. But at every given moment, you are a perfect representation of whatever it is you are at this moment.
Thank you so much. I have a pretty interesting story to share with you, and some questions that follow.
All right.
During meditation one day, the energy and the consciousness of Mother Ayahuasca came to me,
Yes.
and I sat with it, and it felt really good. And I didn't necessarily say, "Oh my gosh, I need to go do ayahuasca," but the medicine came to me through people, and it was really nice. And shortly after, that was about 8 months ago, and a month or two after, you came into my consciousness, and I found your teachings. And your
Yes.
teachings have really helped me move from believing into knowing.
All right.
Um, and and it, and it has changed my frequency a bit, and
Oh, yes, quite a bit.
but it brings challenges, new ones, and
Absolutely. That's what they're for.
I'm enjoying the challenges. And then I came across your crystal skulls, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I want to get a crystal skull." And I got one, and it was pink, and that was a big synchronicity for me. If I could articulate my authentic frequency, I would be shades of pink. And depending on how I feel, the shade of pink changes.
Yes.
Fast forward, it finally aligned where I did an ayahuasca ceremony. And you were a part of the ceremony, and it was so interesting. And I was outside, and I saw your family crest in the sky. And I don't know how to put it into words, but it was as if my whole body became activated, and I was one with the cosmos,
Yes.
and I was dancing. The sky turned hot pink, and I believe there were some particular activities in the sky, regardless of me being on ayahuasca. It was around the 8-8 portal, and I think we saw a comet. And what was happening was that anything that I would touch, a star, a planet, it would move, and I was dancing with the cosmos. And it happened to be there was people that were witnessing and watching me experience this, which was nice for me, you know. Anywho, it was just a bunch of information coming, and I didn't know necessarily what to do with it, but I was receiving it. And then the next day, it was a very different experience. It was super grounding, and I was in the earth,
Yes.
and I gave birth, and it was a dragon. And ever since I got that crystal, I was activated with grandmother dragon energy, and it came with its own set of challenges and mysteries and phenomena. Well,
Yes.
when I gave birth to this dragon, it wasn't easy, and I became this dragon. But the main message and question for you now is that once we fully feel our power as beings viscerally, we must balance it with humility.
Yes.
And that was what I was experiencing, the uncomfortableness of this ayahuasca experience. And I wanted you to maybe shed some light on that and help me understand it better. Humility.
All right. Well, again, it's connected to the idea of grounding. It's connected to the understanding that you are an expression of nature. And it's not about letting go of nature to explore the stars and the cosmic side of your being, but grounding to the earth, grounding to that energy, connecting to it so that you have a foundation from which you can rise and allow there to be a link and a bridge and function as a link and a bridge between what you colloquially call heaven and earth, to allow you to bring energies down to create heaven on earth. So it's all about forming that bridge, that link. The dragon represents ancient wisdom, ancient knowledge, a very deep and ancient connection in your DNA to the idea of being physical and being able to channel energies through that physical component of the DNA to again do what it is we're talking about. Bring those higher frequency energies that you are connecting to in the cosmos down to earth, to be the valve, to be the link, to be the bridge that balances those two energies so that you can reach for the stars, but do so with a grounded humility that allows balance to be maintained so that it is a natural experience that's more expressive of your authentic self and your true soul.
Uh, Thank you. That was beautifully said. That was pretty much encapsulated my experience. And I have experienced in this reality and on Earth some resistance in being fully in my physical body. Sometimes I prefer being in the cosmos because but that doesn't serve me because I am in this physical reality and I have
Yes,
things.
it's all right. It's a typical thing because, again, remember, you are in spirit and you know that physical reality is just a projection happening within your soul. So it is something typical that sometimes a spirit will kind of feel a little uncomfortable with the idea because it knows that it is actually just a projection and it's not really what a spirit is. But it is a part of you. It is an authentic part of you happening within your soul. But I understand that sometimes it can feel a little uncomfortable because it's not your natural state.
Yeah, it's almost like giving birth to like every cell in your body, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yes, well, that's what you're doing when you create an
Okay.
idea called physical reality and a physical body. Remember, it's not that your body has a soul, it's that your soul has a body. So you do, by concentrating certain energies within your soul down to the center of your soul, actually give birth to your physical body, to every cell within it, to every atom within it, to every subatomic particle within it. It's all created within your soul.
Thank you. And now when I see you, before when I would see you in meditation dreams or whatever, you would be alone and you have been kind of like this cosmic father figure for me. And it's been very grounding for me to balance the male and feminine energy. And
Yes,
during the ceremony, all it kept showing me was the infinity sign.
yes.
And
It is our passion and our pleasure to give off certain frequencies and energies that all of you may use to help you symbolically and representationally in your journeys that way. It doesn't mean that I am literally involved in the same way that an individual might choose to be involved. But since I have a multidimensional nature, any single one of you can tap into my general frequency and use that part of my energy to help you on your journeys in that way, because we give ourselves to you that way so that you may include our vibration within the mix or the recipe of the challenges that you face to help you, guide you on your journey. So in picking up on that frequency that way, we are happy to participate as the general energy that we give off, even though it doesn't necessarily mean that I literally, as an individual, am participating in your experience with you.
and ever since that ceremony, now when I see you, you're with a group of people.
Yes,
Um, do you know what that means? How why that
of
shift happened?
course. Of course. Remember, very often in these conversations, the translation from us comes through as we instead of
Mm-hmm.
I. That is because I am connected to a group of individuals, many individuals, a multitude of individuals telepathically, and we come through together as a group. I am simply the representation of that group. As a single entity, as a single individual, I am facilitating that. But I am, in essence, a multidimensional group of entities.
And
That
now
is the level on which my species exists as a multidimensional group of entities for every individual. So we come through as a group.
wow, that makes a lot of sense. And now that I'm looking at your background in the trees, I've been connecting to trees my whole entire life, but of late, like a tree will just call me and I'll
Yeah.
just put my hand on it and I just that feeling of being alone is kind of gone.
Well,
Can
yes, because you're connecting to the
extraterrestrials,
forest. You're
can
connecting
extra,
to You're
sorry.
connecting to the forest. You're connecting to the underground network of the roots and the systems that allow trees to know that they are, in essence, not necessarily just individuals, but they are, in essence, a group, a forest, a grove, a collection. They are conscious in their own way and communicating with you.
Yes, I recently tried one of your manifestation techniques with drawing instead of using words and
Yes.
encapsulating the emotion and then burning it. I I I I haven't I haven't manifested this quickly in my entire life. It's like it's something about removing the words and just having the image and drawing it.
Well, that's how you actually use telepathy, is with
Mhm.
imagery and feeling, not with words. So it's a way of allowing yourself to begin to explore how to become more telepathic. Does that help you?
All of this helped me so much. I'm truly grateful for this experience.
We deeply appreciate your willingness to apply this information and change yourself in a more positive way. So we thank you. Aveo. Good day.
Aveo, good day.
Hi, Bashar. I'm currently training as a salesman to have online meetings with prospective clients who have expressed interest in a company's product or service. And I was hoping you could help me to understand the most important things I need to know about acting with integrity and being of the most help that I possibly can to my prospects.
Focus not on the idea of selling the product, but how the product serves those to whom you are selling. In other words, how can our product help you? How can it serve your needs? How can it help you become more of what it is you prefer to become? How can it help change your life in ways that make your life more the way you would prefer it to be? So it's all about the idea of how what you do can better serve the people that you are, quote unquote, selling to, rather than focusing on the idea of selling to them. It's about serving them. And then the sales will happen automatically where it needs to, if you allow them to be excited about what your product can do for them. And it's all about how it can serve them. Good day. Good day.
Good day. Greetings, family. Welcome to my home. My passion is being a teacher and a mother. And I am now understanding that I am a preparer of the way for the new 6th hybrid race here on planet Earth. In the Sedona transmission, you mentioned in your civilization that you are all parents to all children. I would love some clarification or a synopsis on how you grew physical beings for your civilization in the beginning to now evolving to materialization.
Are you asking us how we procreate?
In a sense, but the evolution of it going from a birth canal to materialization.
All right. Well, the idea again has to do with being your authentic self, following your passion and acting on it, which raises your frequency. And over time, the continual raising of that frequency starts to mitigate your connection to some degree to the concept of physical reality, or allows you to experience physical reality truly as a projection of your consciousness. So eventually you really start experiencing physical reality as something far more flexible, malleable than solid. And when you arrive at that point in your evolution, then you start to realize everything is just frequencies of energy. And when you start to really realize that and are telepathically bonded to the rest of your society, when you reach that certain point, then that collective energy telepathically suddenly turns your physical reality into something quite fluid and quite transparent and quite dreamlike. And therefore you understand the idea, the expression of bringing a new life in is simply the idea of energetically providing a kind of energy vehicle that has the ability to crystallize to whatever degree it needs to perform its physical functions in your society, to meet its challenges in whatever way it wishes to, and that can be done more through energy than through the idea of the physical body.
Is the physical body, is the way that we have children here on this planet now for survival? Was it a part of being able to nurture and grow, or is that something that will evolve out of?
Eventually, it is something that you will evolve into a little bit differently. You will maintain it for quite some time, but you will experience it differently as you evolve over the next 1,000 of your years. It will be something that will happen a little bit differently. It's a little bit challenging to describe the differences for you, but let us just say, if we could give you a rough analogy, it would be more like you're still giving birth physically, but it takes on a more dreamlike quality, So time and space are compressed in a way so that one moment you are pregnant, and then you kind of go through this dream, and then the next moment the baby is there. So there is a collapsing of your physical materiality, still connecting to physicality, but taking on a more dreamlike quality so that you don't really experience the birthing process in exactly the same way you experience it, more like going into a dream state, an astral state, experiencing directly the connection with the spirit of the child. And the next thing you know, when you wake up from that dream, the child is there. The child has been physically born. So it's going to be more like that.
Thank you. I actually had a similar experience. I was what was called currently as a gestational surrogate, and I was the biological mother to a child that was not genetically related to me. And what my question regarding that is, there's something that is being shown in science called microchimerism,
Yes.
and that is the exchange of cells.
Yes.
My question is, what information is in the exchange of cells between mother and fetus? And why do we carry it for the rest of our lives?
Well, because you're part of the same soul family. So it's a way of creating an imprinting to know that there is always a connection with that being. And it's done through the exchange of genetic material physically as a representation of the soul family connection that you have and the agreement you made to be the mother, to be the vehicle to bring through that particular entity into physicalness, even though you are not initially genetically connected. The genetic exchange shows you that you are connected on a soul level.
Are we going to evolve away from mother, father into all parent?
Well, to some degree. Again, those distinctions will to some degree remain, but again, it will become more broadly understood and more telepathically experienced in a more balanced way.
Thank you. In the Sedona transmission, you brought through, and your channel brought through an entity that was kind of hinted at being revealed, connecting the heart and the mind, but I have yet to hear if it is time to reveal who that was.
It was a mantis being.
Okay, that's what I thought. My next question is, at the Sedona transmission, I had the pleasure of sitting in front of your channel, and the channel began to look like a mirage. And
Yes.
was in that moment where I was able to see that, was I also quasi-physical?
To some degree, yes. You were allowing physical reality to not be as real, as solid. You were allowing yourself to pick up on our frequency a little bit more, and therefore experience reality a little bit more like we do, where we don't experience it as being solid. We experience it as being more of a multidimensional mirage.
My last question is, I would like to create a documentary film about my story as a gestational surrogate, which actually is the biological or the birth mother to these children. Yet I'm finding that it is a passion, but there is an undercurrent of anger, as the experience I went through was very painful but beneficial. And it is the catalyst to this. And my hope is to bring out all the information so women that decide to be a carrier can have all the information to make a conscious choice.
That's fine. The
Now,
idea of your anger simply is a challenge that you can face and include in the documentary as a transformational challenge that can allow them to deal with whatever emotions come up and whatever belief systems are behind them, so that they can learn the lessons in the future in a more positive way and transfer that information through the documentary to others who may face the same challenges, but then because of the information you provide in transforming that energy in the documentary, don't necessarily have to experience it in the way that you did.
thank you. I needed to hear that today.
All right.
That is that is all.
All right. Then we thank you. Aveo. Good day.
Aveo.
Hey Bashar, it's Mehul from Toronto. I'm just wondering, since it's been 1 year since you've announced that we're 1 minute from midnight, how many seconds from midnight are we right now?
27 seconds. Good day, good day.
Aveo Bashar. I have a couple questions.
Aveo.
I have a couple questions for you,
Yes,
especially about something that you said on the 2024 event here in Sedona. You'd
yes.
mentioned that your first contract agreement with Our World was with Anima, and I was just wondering why the decision and the purpose for that initial frequency.
Well, first of all, it is easier energy for the channel to have gotten used to before getting used to our energy. Anima is a social engineer and was instrumental in helping prepare the channel to receive more energy from us and the connection that the channel had more directly with us. So by having someone that is involved with me in my society, but not directly connected to the idea of the channel in the same way I am, it was easier for the channel to undertake her energy first to get used to being able to handle our energy.
Was that helpful to Our World as a feminine spirit coming in through
Oh,
through
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
Daryl?
Absolutely. In open contact, when the hybrids will appear among you, along with other extraterrestrial civilizations, one of the groups after the first contact specialists, such as myself, will be the social engineers. The social engineers will work with humanity to help you understand planetary management.
Would you offer up your perspective on the social engineering definition?
Planetary management, moving through all things in balance, in a balanced state, in an equal state. So it's about the idea of balance as the primary component of planetary management.
And that's in a positive perspective, of course. I've looked it up online, and there's not a positive perspective online of social engineering.
No, the social engineering, as we understand it, is something quite different. But that's the closest word you have in your reality to translating the idea.
So the teachings that you've brought forth so far in the last 40 plus years, that is the beginning of the social introduction of re-engineering our minds in a positive sense.
Yes. Then the next step from the social engineers will be to guide you through the idea of how to actually physically apply all these things to the management of your entire planet in a way that's beneficial for all.
And that would be the formula.
Well, the formula is part of that, but I'm actually talking about the idea of information coming from extraterrestrial sources and technology that allow you to grow enough food for all, to change the idea eventually of what you call your borders and your politics so that things can be done more efficiently on your planet for the benefit of all, and the rearrangement of other social ideas on your planet that will again allow for a more positive introduction to the children of the earth so they can grow up being self-empowered individuals in a very positive way. So it has a lot to do with a lot of those different things of education, of application of information, of technologies in a way that benefits your entire planet and every person on it.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Are we looking at that in the next 20 years? Social
Yes.
engineering?
Basically, by the year of 2050, the idea of the social engineering programs will have been applied in direct force, in direct ways that will allow you to know that after 2050, the trajectory of human evolution will take on a very different quality and an accelerated rate.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Yes.
I have
It will
another question.
also aid and assist in the introduction of humanity to the idea of the galactic society, the galactic family, to which you will then be a part of.
Yeah, galactic family. I have a question on that because I've been introduced to that now 20 plus years, and
Yeah.
I'm quite acclimated as much as I know that I can be right now.
Yes.
Someone brand new into this, what would it take to just begin to understand a galactic connection?
Following the formula will help a lot
Okay.
because, again, When you act on your passion, you raise your frequency. When you raise your frequency, you become a better antenna to receive higher frequency information. Many extraterrestrials, such as my own civilization, operate on much higher frequencies. In other words, you'll be able to tap into the dialogues that take place on higher frequencies and begin to absorb information that will allow you to acclimate more quickly to the idea of, shall we say, what's going on out here.
Thank you.
Yes.
On the same line, this year I've integrated some of the Aloha teachings, which I feel are somewhat of the feminine principles of our perspectives that I've been working with you on. And
yes.
I feel maybe that's Anima's alignment as well in those teachings, the resonance.
Well, yes, but not only her. There are many hybrids, both male and female, that are connected to the idea of the social engineering that provides balance between the masculine and feminine energies that need to happen on your planet. So she's a symbolic representation of that, but she's not the only literal individual involved.
Would you say that Anima's the Ethasani presentation of that?
It's not the only Ethasani presentation of that. She's not the only one from Ethasani doing that. It's just that you can use the idea of anima as, in your language, the expression of a male energy through a female, as opposed to animus, which is the idea of the female energy through a male. So it's simply generically representational of a balancing of those energies. So you can use it symbolically that way, but we're also talking about the fact that she is literally an individual in my society who is a social engineer, but she's not the only one that will be involved with your planet when that time comes. So you can refer to her in general that way. I'm simply saying she won't be the only entity from my civilization to be involved with Earth in terms of the social engineering aspect.
Thank you. I understand.
Then we thank you for the co-creation of this interaction. Our unconditional love to you. Aveo.
Aveo. Thank you.
Hello, my love and gratitude to Daryl and Bashar for this co-creation.
We thank you and good day.
4 decades of my life were spent working on computer software. When I was in high school, I was fascinated with computers. And the thing that got me hooked on computers was a text-based game called Adventure. And that game was a simulated game world, and you could use commands to navigate the world. And I've always wondered if this was a simulation. And part of my interest in computers, I think, was part of this interest that I have in understanding reality. And so one of the questions that I have is regarding computers, and is this reality in some way related to a computer executing a virtual reality? For example, in computer science, we have something called a quantum. And what that means is it's a time slice within a time-sharing computer. And so within that quantum of time, something could be rendered into a reality. And so, my question is, should I consider that this simulation we are in is a computer simulation in a quantum of time rendered a billion times a second?
No, it's your simulation collectively. Your spirits, your souls are creating the simulation. The idea of the existence of your computer programs is a reflection in your technology of what you are doing organically, spiritually. So it's a reflection of the idea of what you're creating. You're creating the simulation, but your technology will reflect that idea.
Okay, thank you for that.
We thank you. Aveo. Good day.
Aveo.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have lots of great questions from our viewers.
All right, but before we get to those questions, we would like to address the following idea. Many of the questions had to do with the idea of demons being independent entities and were asked in that way. As we have just explained in the monologue, the idea of demons are simply a manifestational projection from the negative side of collective consciousness of humanity. So we would like to repeat the idea that they do not have their own independent existence apart from that collective consciousness, where, in a sense, when fear-based and negative beliefs take precedence in a person's consciousness, they can be crafted, so to speak, out of the energy of the collective consciousness on the negative side, formed, so to speak, from the clay of that negative collective consciousness, and are projections of any individual tapping into that negative collective consciousness to form the experience or reflection of a demon, and they are not independent entities in their own right. Therefore, that monologue has addressed all the questions that may have been asked in a way that implies that demons are independent entities, which they are not. So those questions are eliminated. They are already answered.
Okay, I'll do my best to avoid those. The first one has to do with the representation of the Lucifer archetype and the idea that there's an asteroid Lucifer in astrology that could symbolize how we might be influenced by darker energies or even be tied to unbreakable soul contracts. And what this person is asking for is a more empowering or positive view on how to understand and work with this archetype.
As you know, in your language, the name Lucifer actually means light bringer. So the idea, again, is that it reflects the concept of taking light in its highest form and reducing it energetically, vibrationally down to a physical level, lowering the frequency. This is what is meant by the concept of a fallen angel, that its vibrational frequency is reduced to such a degree that it expresses itself in physical terms at a lower density, a lower vibration. Now, this doesn't happen specifically to an actual angel, but the idea is representative and reflective of the idea of your higher natures, as you often say, the angels of your better natures, your true essential beingness, which is light and love, in a sense being lowered in frequency to be experienced and densified into physical materiality. So the idea of Lucifer is simply the idea of archetypally dealing with the polarity that exists in the way that it is expressed in physical reality between positive and negative, light and dark, so on and so forth. So it is that reflection which can bring up fears within an individual or within a collective and must be dealt with and transformed by turning it back into the light or balancing the darkness with the light within each and every individual.
Okay, thank you. And could you explain the concept of as above, so below when it comes to negative energy? When we experience wars, injustice, and dehumanization, what is happening above that it translates to these atrocities below?
The challenges on your life path are created in a spiritual blueprint that then play out in physical reality below, so to speak, in the denser reality of a lower frequency, but according to the belief system in the personality as to whether that is dominated by positive and or negative beliefs. So it's not necessarily that the blueprint itself contains the struggle or the strife that you experience in war and other kinds of experiences like that, but the challenges that are outlined in the life path blueprint are then colored by the belief systems in the physical personality to be experienced in ways that allow you to overcome those challenges relative to the physical personality point of view.
Okay, and can you speak about the demons or Satan that Jesus faced and those that archetype Archangel Michael faces?
Again, the idea is to understand that Yeshua or Jesus, just like you, understood the idea that demons are a projection of the collective negative consciousness of humanity. And it is simply a way of referencing that he, like you, had to deal with and transform and balance those energies within himself as a human so that he would balance them, face them, deal with them in a way that would allow him to transcend the idea of experiencing negativity for himself, but still outwardly would express that idea in such events as the crucifixion and the torturing and suffering to represent the idea of how humanity sees itself, how it represents itself, how it experiences itself in a negative way that can be transcended in a positive way by then the events of the upliftment, of the resurrection, and the ascension. The idea of archangels experiencing interactions with negativity is simply another way of saying that when angels deal with humanity, they recognize that that polarity exists, but they are, in a sense, above that and do not experience it directly for themselves.
And what exactly is black magic? Does it work? How? And why do some people practice it?
Again, this has to do with misconceptions of empowerment. It is the idea of utilizing synchronicity in a negative way. So the idea is simply another expression of polarity, recognizing one's self-empowerment for the creation and manifestation of certain events or effects in physical reality, but doing it from kind of a negative point of view, that one must proceed in the darkness in order to affect the reality or the life in the way that one intends or one prefers, rather than coming from the side of light.
Okay, and could you shed some light on the idea that people are possessed by demons, such as a nun crawling up the walls and the ceiling inside of a room, which was witnessed by a priest, or other such occurrences witnessed? How does an exorcist remove the demons from such people?
Again, this is happening internally. Remember that this is your own energy, and you are capable of manifesting many different kinds of effects, like levitation, crawling up walls, things like that, when the belief system is strong enough to allow those effects to occur and overcome what might be a typical understanding of physical reality, to demonstrate those abilities, to demonstrate those powers, but again, being done from the fear or negative based side. A possession is again a recognition that it is your own energy. That's why it's in your body. But it is the idea that it is coming from outside because you are in denial of the fact that you are creating the demonic force out of the collective negative consciousness. So the idea of possession is a sort of polarized way of understanding that it is your own energy, but through the denial that it's happening from you, so you project it on the outside, that you are being possessed by a demonic entity from the outside. But that is simply a convenient way of not facing the fact that you are actually creating this energy within yourself by going so deeply into the idea of negative and fear-based beliefs that it takes over your physical form to the extent that you can actually exhibit some of the features that you are talking about.
Can you talk about the idea of protection from negative energies and using things like crystals, flower essences, and other things to protect and create a positive energy field? How do things like that work? And does focusing on the idea of protection in any way create more of an idea of a threat and something to be protected against? Or can these things be explored in a positive and supportive way without calling all that in?
Yes, they can. Now, it's all well and good if you wish, and if it makes you feel better, to say that you are surrounding yourself with white light or using a crystal to clear the energies or sage to clear the energies of the room, so that you are using a permission slip to establish that you have a preference for a particular positive vibration, so that the idea is that you will not allow your energy to match the frequencies of something that you might deem to be a more negative idea or a negative belief system. So in that sense, yes, you can do that. But the overindulgence or the over worry of the idea of needing protection or requiring protection can in fact actually invite the idea of your energy matching more negative frequencies, because you are believing so deeply that you need the protection. You're actually creating the idea of the experience of being attacked, because you are believing so strongly that you might be attacked, thus believing very strongly that you need the protection, instead of doing it more lightly, just as a statement of the vibrational frequency that you prefer in your intentions toward all things and experiences in your life. So it's a matter of balancing that idea and using the permission slips in a lighter and more positive way, rather than steeping yourself in the fear that if you don't protect yourself, something might get you, which again is only going to be your own energy matching negative vibrational frequencies that would allow you to experience the effect as if you are being attacked by something outside yourself, when it's all going on internally. So again, it's a matter of balance.
So along those ideas, let's say
One
someone
moment,
lives in a
one moment. To answer the previous question fully, the idea of an exorcist is really simply someone who allows them to get in touch, allows the person that appears to be possessed to get in touch with the fact that it is coming from their own belief system, and that they themselves are manifesting that particular experience from their own energy. So in a sense, an exorcist is sort of like a type of psychologist that can aid and assist a person to get out of denial that they themselves are creating that effect, and that demons don't really exist as outside entities, but that that person is that powerful that they can create that effect within themselves. But they have to own it, they have to take responsibility for it, and then they will find that they are no longer, quote unquote, possessed. So that's what an exorcist actually does, is use the person's belief system in the negativity to overcome it by their belief in the positive energy that is capable of overcoming it. But it's all, in a sense, deep psychology that puts a person in touch and out of denial of their own fear-based and negative belief systems.
Okay, that's great. And as far as the protection idea, for example, if someone is living in a neighborhood and suddenly they become aware that there's been a number of robberies, and then that person decides for their own protection to put an alarm system in or take some steps in order to increase their security. Is that fear-based, or what makes that okay?
It is moderately fear-based, but at the same time, it can be done in a balanced way that simply recognizes the environment and the nature of the environment that you may be living in. So it's all right to be quote unquote practical and take certain precautions as long as it doesn't become an obsession, which could actually drive the negative experience toward you. So again, it's a matter of practical balance. It's a matter of understanding what environment you may have chosen to live in, so that you can take moderate precautions to simply make you aware and alert of what is going on around you with other people, so that you don't necessarily have to pay that much attention to all the little details. It can do something for you to help you relax, to understand that then you can focus on other things by having taken a modicum of awareness, a modicum of protection in that context. But as long as it doesn't become a full obsession, then there is nothing to worry about.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
This question is, because we are afraid of our own light, our own infinite power, is this why our ego creates the idea of demons?
Yes. Exactly what we explained in the monologue.
And this individual is saying that sometimes they see demons around people that seem to contribute to physical symptoms like high blood pressure or back pain. Can you explain why this might happen and share ways to help people address it and prevent it from recurring?
Again, as we have already explained, these are what appear to be externalized manifestations of an internal idea of fear-based or negative beliefs that crafts these demonic representations or archetypal forms out of the collective clay of the collective consciousness on the negative side of humanity. So someone may be capable of perceiving that another person is doing this, and they may empathically pick up on the idea of that this manifestation has a certain form to it, a certain energy to it that can be represented archetypally in the shape of what humanity has labeled as a demon. But again, you can be aware that this is simply a projection of that person going through that experience, experiencing their own negative energy in that way. But a person might be sensitive enough to pick up on that and actually see the manifestations as if they truly were external independent entities, which they are not.
And this individual says, as a mental health therapist, they treat clients labeled with schizophrenia, bipolar, paranoia, and borderline personality disorders. These clients represent or report having delusions and hallucinations of demons and voices.
Yes.
Could you explain what is occurring in those? Well, I think you've explained it, and how they might be assisted in understanding what's happening so they can gain insight and connection to their higher self and feel more in control of their lives?
Well, if they are willing to receive it, if they are willing to accept it, the explanation we have already given about how demonic reflections are created out of the collective clay of the consciousness that is negative of humanity, if that can be shared, that idea can be explained to an individual, they can begin to get in touch with taking responsibility and diving into their belief systems of how they feel about themselves, why they would continue to torture or punish themselves that way. Then perhaps they can be helped if they're willing to accept that understanding. So everything that we've already talked about can be of help to those individuals, but they simply have to be willing to understand, to listen, to absorb and accept that explanation and take responsibility for it, which is not meaning to blame themselves, but just to understand the mechanism of how these things work so they can get in touch with negative beliefs they may have picked up along the way in their life and understand that those negative beliefs may have been, shall we say, telepathically reinforced within them in growing up, and can understand now that they have the freedom and the self-empowerment to let those beliefs go, that they really have no reason to perpetuate those beliefs against themselves in that way and have those kinds of experiences. But again, on top of all that, remember that sometimes an individual will, on their life path, choose to exhibit certain conditions, certain experiences that might help others figure out how to deal with them, how to cure, how to solve, so on and so forth. So sometimes an individual will choose that particular experience to help others figure out how to deal with it so that humanity can improve and understand its relationship to those kinds of conditions more fully. So it depends upon the life path as to why that individual may be experiencing that thing and how they may be serving others in having chosen to do so as a soul.
Thank you. This person is asking, how can I approach troubling topics such as war crimes and the ritual abuse of children? Are these issues reflections of aspects of myself that I am rejecting? If I view them as a mirror to heal my own wounds, I may not perceive them in my reality, but I feel a sense of responsibility to those who are suffering. I want to avoid adding energy to those dark issues by fixating on them, yet I also don't want to deny their existence or feel as though I'm abandoning those in need. How can I navigate this situation in a way that is beneficial for everyone involved?
All right, this goes back to what we have said about the idea of reflections in your reality. It doesn't mean that what you see is a one-to-one reflection of something that is an issue within you that you need to deal with literally and directly. However, if you can perceive it in your reality, the idea is you can help where you can. You can take the actions to help mitigate the suffering of others in some way, shape, or form, if possible. So the idea is not that you fixate on it, but that you're aware of it. You recognize that as you perceive it, it may be that the reflection for you is it gives you an opportunity to help those individuals cease their suffering. So take actions in a positive direction, in a loving direction that might help mitigate their suffering, and you will be doing what it is perhaps that you need to do to figure out the reason why that is in your life. It doesn't mean that you necessarily are adding to their negativity if you are willing to help them find a way to exit from the suffering that they have been experiencing because of their belief systems or their experiences in life. So by all means, you can be of great assistance. You don't have to worry about adding to their suffering just because you are aware of their situation.
Okay, and can you explain spiritual warfare, hell, and the duality that is inside all of us?
Well, the duality that's inside everyone is simply a reflection of the polarity that is part of existence, the negative and the positive. I'm speaking mechanically, the idea of lower vibrations, higher frequencies, light and dark, so on and so forth. Positive, negative, mechanically speaking. Positive being that which connects and expands, negative being that which creates the experience of separation and diminishment. But these are just mechanical energies that exist on every level of existence. So the idea is the duality is just a natural state of existence, and you can learn to balance it in a way that you can then choose what you prefer to experience rather than succumbing to beliefs that might be negative or fear-based that would allow you to experience things you don't prefer. Spiritual warfare doesn't really exist. The idea, again, is that hell doesn't really exist, except as you make it. Except as you deem it to be true for yourself, you will experience suffering and negativity in a way that could be described as a living hell. So the place itself is not real. People who believe in hell, when they die, if they really believe strongly enough that they will experience the idea of the so-called burning fires of hell, or however they have chosen to represent that concept, may experience it for a brief split second, because what you think, what you believe in spirit is instantly experienced, but the instant that they would experience it, it would be so awful that they would wish that they would not experience it, and then they would stop experiencing it in spirit, because things happen instantaneously in spirit, because time is different there. Spiritual warfare is a contradiction in terms. If you are spiritual, there is no warfare. The idea of conflict in that sense has to do with succumbing to fear-based and negative vibrations that would cause one to suffer, to struggle, to experience conflict, so on and so forth, to experience opposition in that sense. Whereas A being that is truly more balanced in its spirituality will never experience those things and would experience more of a flow and an ease in communication and in concept. So the idea of spiritual warfare, in a sense, doesn't really exist.
And this individual is saying, people say negative thoughts can manifest. What shall we do about all of the thoughts which we've already thought? Can we undo them? How do we clear past negative thoughts and patterns from our minds and aura? Is there a meditation, prayer, or visualization technique that can help?
If you have a negative thought, again, it's all right to deal with it. It's all right to recognize it. It's all right to allow it. Don't obsess over it. That's what causes the manifestation, is focusing too much negativity and fear on having a negative thought, judging yourself harshly for having the negative thought. Being afraid to have the negative thoughts can actually cause manifestations of negativity. But if a negative thought comes up, it's like, acknowledge it, recognize it, say, okay, let me explore why I'm having this. Let me see if this is an indication that I'm holding on to some kind of fear-based or negative belief about myself that would perpetuate these negative thoughts. Let me work with that. Let me see if I can find the root cause of why these negative thoughts are coming up so that I can let them go. So not being afraid, ironically, of having negative thoughts is what will allow you to make sure that they actually don't manifest in physical reality. Working with them in a positive way, using them to discover your deep-seated negative or fear-based beliefs that may be in your unconscious mind is a way to use them in a positive context. So don't be afraid of having them, just work with them in a positive way and they will not manifest beyond the idea of simply recognizing that you have them.
Okay. And this person is saying that they've noticed that the more enlightened they become, the more darkness in society is revealed.
Yes.
And they want to know if this is a collective purging or is this shadow work that the individual needs to do. And that the idea that somehow this demonic energy shows up whenever things are going great in their life, and then they are not sure what to make of that.
All right. All right. This is what we have said before about the idea of the expansion of consciousness, broadening your bandwidth. Remember, duality exists on every level of existence. Therefore, the more you expand your consciousness, the more aware you become of more of existence, the more you're going to recognize not only more light, but also more darkness. Now, just the recognition of it doesn't do anything. Just keep it in balance. If you start worrying that you're seeing more darkness, then you're going in a negative direction with it. So you have to understand it's a natural result of the expansion of consciousness that you would become more aware of the darkness as well as more aware of the light. But if you remain in balance with that observation and just make it a neutral observation, then you can still choose what you prefer without worrying that the negative side is going to manifest that you don't prefer. So stay neutral with the observation that you're going to recognize more light and darkness as you expand your consciousness, and everything will remain in balance and you can choose what you prefer to experience.
Okay. And this person has been noticing a third eye tattoo on various people, and they feel like it's a form of synchronicity. They even saw someone walking at a traffic light and then somebody on a train. And so what does this tattoo symbolize?
Well, as a synchronicity, it could be a message from your spirit guides urging you and encouraging you to actually work on your psychic and empathic and telepathic abilities. So you might be getting that synchronicity to remind you to use your intuition more. So go ahead, follow your intuition. Practice being more telepathic. Practice being in love with humanity. Practice being more empathic with other individuals. Open up the idea of your third eye. This might be a message from your spirit guides that you need to focus on that a little bit more.
And this person is saying, while I understand the only way I can feel an external energy is actually feeling my energy match that, how do I completely rid myself of the effects I feel when another is intentionally sending negative and painful energies? I seem stuck in a paradox.
Well, again, you have already recognized that it's your own energy matching their frequency, so you would have to ask yourself, what reasons are you creating within your consciousness for matching their frequency? Because you wouldn't have any effects whatsoever if you didn't match their frequency. So any residual effects means you're still matching that lower frequency. So you have to ask yourself why you would have a reason to do so, and find out what that belief system is telling you, what story it's telling you that makes it seem logical for you to keep matching that frequency and feeling those effects. Because you will not feel the effects if you stop matching that frequency. So find the reason you're creating, the reason you're generating that seems for some reason to be a logical reason to continue to match that lower frequency.
Okay, and this person is saying basically that if they express something and another person perceives it as divisive or dismissive, while others do not, how much responsibility do we actually bear for those perceptions? And it's along the idea of gaslighting, let's say, where you have another person that is insisting on what is happening, which is inaccurate.
That's an extreme example that isn't quite the point of the question. The idea is that in normal communication, it's always good to attempt to be as clear about your intention of what you're attempting to communicate as possible. So by all means, you're responsible for taking some time to make sure that your communications are not in any way, shape, or form reflective of some kind of unconscious hidden agenda that might color your words and might charge the words with some kind of an emotion that you may not be aware of that could trigger someone else. Now, their reaction to it is their issue and not yours, as long as you are making sure that your intention is as clear as possible, your communication is as clear, balanced as possible. Do your best to do your part to communicate clearly your intention. You can always apologize if you have made a mistake in how you wish to communicate something and say, that's not really what I meant. I'm sorry. Let me try to clear that up. And so you're always making sure that you're being clear in what it is you are communicating. At the same time, you are not responsible for any negative reactions in someone else who might have their own belief system filters that are choosing to misinterpret what you are saying. So it takes both sides to have really clear communication. You make sure your intentions are clear. They make sure that what they are receiving is clear. So they have the duty on their side and the responsibility on their side, instead of reacting with a knee-jerk triggered reaction to say, all right, I'm feeling that what you said is causing some triggering within me. Did you mean this or did you mean that? Let me also clarify the situation by making sure that what I'm experiencing is not coming from you, but is coming from me. And let me ask you to clear the air and specify in your communication what you actually intended to say. So that communication needs to happen from both directions. The concept that you're calling gaslighting is obviously an intentionally negative form of communication that, of course, will cause certain reactions in others because it's intentional. You have a hidden agenda for what it is you are communicating. So that's a little bit different than the idea of being unaware and unconscious about what you might be communicating and attempting to be clearer about it on both directions, in the receiving end and the sending end, as opposed to someone who is literally intending to cause miscommunication and misunderstanding in someone.
Okay. And This person is wondering how to let go and release negative dark habits. How do you replace the empty gap of an old habit when your mind is still being pulled in the negative direction? I understand filling the time with our greatest excitement, but how do we rid the negative habits forever and overcome these addictive habits?
All right. Again, remember, a habit is something you do you don't know you're doing. If you know you have a habit, it's not a habit, it's a choice. So you have no empty gaps. You will always fill it with some belief. You have to. If you had an empty gap, you would have an unconscious moment in the idea of your experience of physical reality. You wouldn't be creating physical reality. You always have to believe something to be true, positively or negatively or neutrally. So again, the idea is you have to own the concept that it is a choice you are making, maybe unconsciously, but this goes to, again, what we call the motivational mechanism in all humans. You will always choose what you believe is to your benefit. You will always move away from what you believe is not to your benefit, but the key word is belief. You may see that you're choosing something that is negative, that you don't prefer, but if you do keep choosing it, what you call a habit or an addiction, you have a reason for doing so that you've invented in your head. In other words, you may think that while you don't prefer it, you keep choosing it because you have a belief that it's safer to keep choosing that than moving in the alternative direction, which you may have a belief that says moving in the alternative direction may be worse. Something worse may happen than what you're experiencing now, so you will refuse to move in that direction. So you have to be very in touch with yourself in honest, transparent self-communication about why you would believe you need to keep choosing the thing you say you don't prefer, because in general, most people will keep doing that because it's a familiar and safer thing to do if they believe that choosing something different would actually cause something worse to happen than what they're experiencing now. That's how the motivational mechanism works. So you're making choices based on your idea that to make a different choice other than keep choosing that idea would be worse. So you have to find out why you think it would be worse and let that idea go, because it doesn't really make sense and it's not really a fact that a different choice would actually cause something worse to happen. You just have been told that story and you're buying into it.
Okay, and this person would like to know, when we find ourselves completely trapped in a situation that seems inescapable and is causing severe distress without understanding why or how it might be serving us, what is the best way to work through this?
What I just said. You still have to understand that you are never trapped. You have to watch your language, watch your definitions. To assume you are trapped is to feel that you are trapped. Understand that no matter how desperate a situation may seem, you are never trapped. You are always capable of transforming it if you get in touch with the belief that is causing the experience of entrapment, because it's only an experience. It's not actually real that you are trapped. You are always free to choose. You are always self-empowered, even if you're using that power to make it seem like you don't have any power to change anything. That's how you're using your power. So you have to see the paradox in the situation. You can never actually be trapped, but you can create an experience of entrapment. And that's what you're doing. So you have to get in touch with the belief systems that make it seem like having an experience of entrapment is a better alternative than what it is you could be doing as an alternative to that. You stay where you are, you freeze yourself, you lock yourself in, because you have a fear-based belief that unlocking yourself and freeing yourself from the circumstance and situation would actually cause something worse to happen. It's what we just explained.
So how does that apply to a situation where a person is physically trapped?
Well, again, you have to look at the idea of what within you would be having attracted that particular experience. What is it that you believe to be true about yourself that you would have attracted yourself into that experience? It doesn't excuse any perpetrator that may have trapped you, but you have to take some responsibility for the idea that you put yourself in that situation. Now, again, that can be for negative or positive reasons, because the idea of being trapped from a positive perspective is, I have chosen to put myself in this situation in dealing with this other person or other people so that perhaps I may be in a position to help them overcome some of the fears within them in their belief system that causes them to act as a perpetrator in trapping other people, if that's what you're referring to. So you have to look at it from a position of power and not a position of victimhood.
Well, I was also referencing the idea of somebody being physically trapped because this is physical reality.
Well, trapped by what?
By in a building or
all right. But again, it's the same idea. What belief systems are within you, or what life path challenge have you put before yourself so that you actually attract that situation to yourself? Remember, it's not about what happens. It's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference and reveals to you the reasons why that situation and circumstance has been co-created by you. So you have to remember it's about what you do, how you respond, how you react positively or negatively to the circumstance that determines how you will experience it and may reveal to you why you have created it and attracted it to yourself. Makes no difference if it's just a circumstance of physicality. You're trapped under a building or something like that. What are the reasons for why you may have attracted yourself to that? And can you stay in a positive state and deal with it from a positive point of view, no matter how dire it may seem to other people?
Okay. Now, this person is asking, can you talk about the idea of things like making amends, paying for past mistakes, and trying to go back and clean things up from the past? This person feels like they've had so many mistakes and they just don't know if they should be hung up on going back and apologizing and fixing everything, or should they just simply learn the lesson within themselves and then move on?
Yes, well, you can do both. I mean, in a sense, if you have the opportunity to do so, and it's part of allowing you to forgive yourself for going in a direction you didn't prefer, if it helps you get to that positive vibrational place and you have the ability to do so, certainly you may be able to go and explain to someone that it wasn't your intention to do something harmful to them. It can allow you to feel better. It can allow them to feel better. It can cause real connection and real communication. If that's not something that you're capable of doing because of circumstances, however, then yes, by all means, just learn the lesson from it. Know that you are now improving yourself. You're a better person by learning that lesson because you know you will not necessarily behave that way again. Then move forward. So you can do both depending upon whether you're capable of clearing the past or whether you're simply capable because of circumstances of learning the lesson and moving forward, or doing both where it can be done. It's up to you.
And this person's asking, does negative energy materialize as disease? And also, how do we release the pent-up stored emotions?
Negative energy quite often manifests itself as dis-ease. Listen to the word. So, yes. So the idea, again, is there are many reasons for why you might be creating or experiencing the disease, all the way from having it planned out in your life path as a spirit because it's a challenge that will help your soul grow, having planned it out in your life path as a spirit because it will help other people figure out how to have a cure for that disease, and therefore you're actually being of service to humanity by having the condition that allows other people to figure out how to treat it and how to cure it. Or again, it's simply the product temporarily of a belief system, a fear-based negative belief system within you that you need to deal with so you can relieve yourself of that condition that is simply temporarily reflective of the uneasiness you have, the discomfort you have within yourself because of those belief systems, and how you deal with all of that and become a more positive person. So there are many reasons for the creation of a disease that you can deal with if you are honest in your self-investigation about what it is that is causing it and what it is that can be done in a positive way about learning lessons from it.
Okay, and here's a question that came up about what's the difference between human demons that you've spoken of versus interdimensional or dimensional demons that we cannot see?
There are no interdimensional demons. Anything that you would experience in your reality is coming from your reality. It doesn't mean there aren't negative beings out in the cosmos. It doesn't mean that there aren't trickster spirits that may be being used to challenge you to grow and expand in different ways. But the idea of what we are referring to and what you're referring to as demons is a projection of the negative side of the collective consciousness of humanity. And any demon you experience in that way is a manifestation of that nature coming from you, no matter where you think they may be coming from.
Okay. And I'm going to move on now to current event questions. The first one is about, is it even worth putting in the energy to converse with people who are clearly in the other world or on the other train track? It almost seems futile at this point. This person has tried so hard, and it seems as if even if you both speak English, there just is no understanding. Can we even try to work together to make our country a better place, or should we just focus internally and with like-minded people?
Well, again, you can do both. It's not about trying to convince anyone to change, but it's about finding things that might actually be common ground that you both can agree on and starting from there. So if you can find the things that you do agree on, then you can allow the things you don't agree about to simply go their way and allow that person to experience whatever track they're on and you to experience whatever track you're on. But it can be of some assistance to have a conversation where you can at least both agree on certain things that you have in common, if you wish to do that. But we understand that sometimes people will simply not wish to change their minds or change the track they're on, and it's not your job to change them. You can share what seems appropriate, but if they reject it, then move on. It's no use beating your head against a wall if they're being the wall. But if you can find some way to have some connection and some common agreement, it can be of some assistance. But we will leave that up to you on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, and this person is asking, Silicon Valley leaders are often seen as highly intelligent, forward-thinking, and passionate about innovation and improving the world through advanced technology. It seems like suddenly the tech billionaires have switched tracks, endorsing the other side, the side that wants to go backwards. I am perturbed. I can't imagine that it's money that is all that influences their decisions. What is going on here?
Some of it is the idea of money and power, but a lot of it is a childlike reaction to not being able to play the way they want. They're afraid of being hemmed in. They're afraid of being regulated. They're afraid of being told that's not an appropriate thing to do. Many of these people have a kind of inner child-like negative reaction to the idea and the fear that they won't be able to play as fully as they want to play because they are being told that they have to take responsibility for the consequences of their choices. And as an immature being, they're not willing to do so. So a lot of it comes from that.
Okay, and when you asked the room in Sedona if we were willing to take responsibility for what you said about the election, what did you mean by responsibility?
Your ability to respond. We will discuss this more in the upcoming transmission next month of your time called Echoes of Sedona, where we will explain exactly why we said what we said, and yes, we said it, no one else. So we will explain our intention, we will explain many things that are connected to it in a way that ideally some of you may understand. Some of you may not. Nevertheless, we will explain it in that transmission and not now.
Okay. And whatever reality we wake up in on November 6th, is that a reality where the tracks that have split no longer see each other? Or is there still a porousness where people in a reality where one person wins the US election can still end up in realities where someone else wins the US election?
It's not that you end up in the different reality, but there is still the porousness of being able to observe it and experience it to some degree, at least by observation. So it will not happen immediately that you will no longer see other tracks. This is a process that happens slowly over many years. Eventually, it will happen in the 30-year reset from 2020 to 2050, but not right away, not immediately, not instantaneously. So there is still the ability to observe each other, even though you don't necessarily have to be affected by each other in the ways that you don't prefer to be.
So does that mean that regardless of who wins, when in the reality of a person observing it?
Let me put it to you this way. Remember that in each reality, each person will win. You're looking at different realities. And there are actually combinations of those realities that create third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh realities to differing degrees of what you experience. So it's not just the idea of, well, one won and the other one didn't. That can be one reality, but it can also be a reality where both wins in their own realities, and it can be a reality where one may win and the other may think they've won. That's another reality altogether. So there are different degrees in the splitting prism of the different realities that different people will experience. So just stay on the track that you prefer, stay in the vibration you prefer. Things will sort themselves out eventually so that the reality you really prefer will be the only one you will experience.
So regardless of whether your candidate wins or not, when you wake up the day that it is determined who has quote unquote won, then
that will be the reality that you will be dealing with because you have chosen to deal with it. So whatever reality you experience at that moment will, for that time, be the reality that you have chosen to be in for a variety of reasons that have to do with the life path that you chose and the challenges you chose to deal with.
Okay. And you've said multiple times that no major nuclear bombs would be allowed to go off on Earth while we're still open to contact. If 45 wins, does that mean that World War III will take place without nuclear warfare? Or does that mean those Earths will no longer be open to or eligible for contact?
Well, some of all of this. You have had World War II without the idea of nuclear confrontation on a global scale. You can certainly experience World War III without global nuclear war. Global nuclear war will be prevented by us because it damages more than just your own world. That's not allowed. It penetrates into other dimensions with the release of that much energy. So we have already demonstrated many times that global thermonuclear war will never be allowed by us. We will intervene in that because it affects more than just you and your world. Other than that, you can do what you wish with your own planet. However, again, the idea is that it is possible that certain versions of Earth will not experience contact, again, because of fear and negativity or just the preference to not experience it on a person's life path. So there are many versions of Earth that don't experience contact. There are many versions of Earth that will experience and do experience and are experiencing contact. Which version are you on? That's the only question.
Okay, and with so much negativity unfolding in the world, from conflicts and climate issues to political and health crises, and our limited ability to influence leadership and talk sense into them, how can we ensure we aren't dragged into a negative reality as realities diverge?
Again, you cannot be dragged by anyone into a reality. You have to make a choice to drag yourself into that reality. Take responsibility for your choices. Understand you are creating your reality. You cannot be dragged by anyone else. Stop giving up your power. So the idea is you can all be leaders in your own ways. Even if you're not literally in a position of political authority, you can still be a leader in your own way by being a living example of the reality you prefer through the actions you take and the interactions you make. So do so. Be your own leader. You're not dragged anywhere except by yourself.
Okay, and this may be redundant, but let's see.
Say that again, please.
I said I don't know if this is redundant.
Say that again, please.
You're making me be redundant.
Yes.
All right, so this person says, I've been feeling excited about this upcoming US election some of the time, but also at times I feel a lot of pressure and stress around it. Like every choice I make is going to determine what reality I end up in, and afraid that I'm lining up with the wrong one when I make a mistake or see things in the news that's just out of fear, and my mind is taking over about it. We're still on track for outcomes that you had predicted, even if things seem close and tense in the news? Or are we really ending up switching tracks if we don't do everything just right for the next few weeks?
I would suggest to this person a word that you often use in your language. You just need to chill out. You are overworried, overcomplicating, overthinking the whole idea. Just do your best. Remember, as we said, the first step toward enlightenment is to lighten up on yourself. Don't take things so seriously. Just do your best to make the choices that you believe are representative of what you prefer. Let everything fall into place automatically according to that vibration. If you overthink it, overcomplicate it, overwork yourself, you'll overwhelm yourself, and that's when you can find yourself in dire circumstances. So stop second guessing yourself. Just do your best. Just chill out. Go with the flow.
Okay, and this is the last question we have time for. You mentioned that the conflict in the Middle East will escalate before it gets better, and that it will take a few years until there will be an event that is a breaking point. Might that event be the 2026 or 2027 contact event that you have predicted?
It's part of it, but things will not, shall we say, level out right away. It will take some time. Things have been going on in that area and other areas of your planet for quite some time. Even though it will start to change things, it will take some time, and there will be a process for people to get used to other things that can happen, other probabilities that can be better for everyone. So it will still take some time. Again, it's all part of what has been termed the reset of humanity in their evolutionary path between your years of 2020 and 2050, but things will smooth out over time. It will not happen overnight, but it will happen for those on that track. All right?
Yes, and is there anything else you'd like to share before we...
Not at this time, except once again to say, of course, you have our unconditional love, and we are all here helping you, guiding you. You have your own teams of spirits and soul families and angelic guardian guides, all helping you. Know that to be true. Allow yourself to feel that to be true. Move forward in your life with that as a truth, and things will smooth out for you. So, allow yourselves to simply become relaxed, go with the flow. Everything will work out. You can allow yourself to know that no matter what happens, again, it's what you do with what happens that makes the difference. So we will remind you of that before we go on.
Thank you.
So prepare yourselves for relaxation and move forward. All right. So we will now invite every single one of you to become very relaxed. Allow yourselves to let go of the cares of the day. Breathe deeply and easily, and allow yourselves to go into a sensation of floating, a sensation of being, a sensation of connection. Allow yourselves to continue to breathe. Allow yourselves to let go of the cares of the day. Allow yourselves to give over to a sensation of floating, of being, of connection. Allow yourselves to open up to the polarities in your reality. 'Tis the season to investigate the positive and the negative, to come to terms, to face your demons, knowing that all is created within your consciousness. All is a reflection of your consciousness, individually and collectively. There is nothing outside that can attack you. There is nothing outside that can possess you. There is nothing outside that can attach itself to you. There is nothing outside that can present itself as an independent entity that you refer to as a demon, except that it is a reflection and a manifestation temporarily of something that you are dealing with internally in your belief systems. Allow yourself to be all right to play with this idea, and when you imagine a demon outside of you, when you imagine a negative entity outside of you, open up in honesty within yourself to understand that it is a reflection of a challenge that is there for you, represented by that idea, represented by that depiction of that kind of an entity that gives you an opportunity to face the darkness within yourself, to bring light into that darkness, to dispel the shadows in that way by letting go of the fear-based and negative beliefs that you may have been holding on to, the outdated, old-fashioned ideas of how these things present themselves to you are not literal. They are symbolic. They are representative. It is a reflection of what's going on in your consciousness, of filtering your beliefs, filtering your energy through negative, fear-based beliefs, filtering and projecting, reflecting back to you in a manifestation that is temporary, crafted out of the clay of the collective consciousness, something that seems separate from you, something that seems to have its own intention, something that appears to be real, but is only real in the context that it is a real experience, that it is a real challenge, that it is a real opportunity, that it is a real lesson for you in facing your demons, letting them go, living authentically, choosing the angels of your better nature, allowing the negativity to exist, but not making it a choice, letting it be in balance, but not choosing it, and seeing that anytime you may choose it is not something happening to you that reinforces victimization. It is something happening through you that is representative of the polarity of the archetypal collective consciousness of your society. Start to take ownership. Start to take responsibility for those manifestations, and you will have power over them. This is why, in the ancient lore, it said that you can have power over demons by knowing their name. That's an old-fashioned translation of the idea that you have to own it, that you have to understand it is your projection. Because no matter what name you may give it to represent the quality that that manifested reflection represents, the name, the true name of that demon is your own name. Own it, and you will control it, and you will mitigate it. It will be disempowered, because you will see it only as a manifestation of something that you are going through to face your challenges, to transform darkness into light, limitation into freedom, negative into positive. That this is the great challenge of the way you experience polarity in your collective consciousness, in the cycles of physical reality, in the earth game that you are playing. It is a game of chess. Allow yourself to learn to play the game by understanding that it's your hand on the piece. No matter how negative, no matter how fearful, no matter how demonic that piece may seem, it is your hand on that piece. It's your move. So allow yourself to recognize it for what it is, so that you can take back your power, not have it manifest in that way, so that you can face the challenges more easily, more smoothly, more effortlessly, more lovingly, more joyfully, more creatively, more imaginatively, more positively. Call on the better angels of your nature. Call upon your spirit guides, soul family, angelic team to help you with this. They are always there, but you have to take ownership and face your own demons. Change your negative and fear-based beliefs. Everything that happens from you in your reality. You are not a victim. There is nothing outside. It is all within. Breathe this in and make it your own, and you will find your true power as a soul, as a spirit, as a reflection of all that is. You are playing a game. Allow yourself to let the game begin to dissolve. So there is no separation and no disconnection between you and what appears outside of you, for it is only an illusion. Let it dissolve, let it fade, let it become a mirage. Face the demons, know their name as your own, and they will fade and disappear. Always being there as a choice, but you will not give them substance. You will not fashion them out of the clay of the collective consciousness. They will remain unformed, always a potential, but unformed and unexperienced. Let them be what they are. That potential is always there. You don't need to call on it. Be self-empowered. You are a soul. Be the soul that you are. Be the authentic self. Face your demons and let them go. Allow yourself to continue to breathe gently and easily, and feel the freedom that results from understanding that all you've ever been dealing with are reflections, illusions in the mirror of life. Once again, we bid you happy Halloween. Our unconditional love to you all, and Ave. Good day.